Can love overcome anything? For many, this is a simple answer. For others, it is more complicated. You see, history is not just written in textbooks, it's passed down through people. The relationship between Korea and Japan is one shaped by colonization, memory, and a lasting impact. But today, a new generation is beginning to see that story differently. From 1910 to 1945, Korea was under Japanese rule. For 35 years, Korean identity was systematically suppressed. The Korean language was banned in schools. Names were changed. Culture was erased. Millions of Koreans were forced into labor, sent to factories, mines, and battlefields, and thousands of women were forced into sexual slavery, known today as comfort women. These are not distant events, they are lived experiences. For many Korean families, this history did not end in 1945. It endured through stories. And to further understand this perspective, we sat down and interviewed a South Korean grandmother, Wendy Kong.
잡혀갔어. 그래가지고 거기서 일본에서 뭐 이렇게 좀 이렇게 웨이트당하고 뭐 하고 막 이런 얘기를 많이 들었는데, 그런 거를 갖다 많이 이슈를 꺼내서 그거를 사과하라 그러고도 지금 있어. 하여튼 그 사람들 살고 있고 위트니스게 많이 그런 얘기를 들었을 때, 그런 걸 좀 사과하고 그다음에 이제 서로서 이렇게 잘 피스풀리 잘 지내면은 좋겠지 이제. 네.
We also interviewed Vanguard University Professor Yi.
Aura of Han is this deep-seated cultural resentment. It's a mixture of resentment, it's a mixture of anger, it's a mixture of kind of those negative feelings that, culturally speaking, Korean people hold. Traditionally, people who are Korean residents or kind of first-generation Koreans.
For many Korean families, this history did not end in 1945. It endured through stories passed through grandparents to parents to children. Stories of survival, stories of loss, stories that shape how entire generations come to see Japan. That history is very important. And to share their story, we have Vanguard University's Professor Park.
So they do have very, very vivid stories of good crops taken over and taken away by the Japanese soldiers. And my father had to change his name to Japanese name. And they were in their early teenage years when the Korean War broke out. So I actually grew up with hefty, very realistic first-hand stories of some of the hardships that they had to live through. Yeah.
But something is beginning to change. Younger generations are not disconnected from history. They are aware of it, they study it, they hear the stories. But instead of inheriting only resentment, many are beginning to ask a different question. What do we do with the history now? Today, connection often begins with culture. Through music, the global rise of K-pop, Korean Wave has built millions of fans in Japan, making it one of the largest markets of Korean entertainment. Through travel, before the pandemic, over 10 million people moved between the two countries each year. Through media, where younger generations, unlike those before them, are increasingly open to connection through platforms like Instagram and TikTok. And through everyday interaction, long before history is fully reconciled, relationships are already forming. Sometimes that connection becomes something deeper.
My name is Eri, and I'm from Japan.
I'm David, from Korea.
How do you guys meet? So, I came here as an international student to this college called Humboldt State University back then. That's where we met.
Relationships between Koreans and Japanese were once unthinkable for many families, not because of the distance, but because of the history. And yet today, there are people choosing each other despite that history, not because the past is forgotten, but because they are choosing something different.
Would you be open to your grandchildren marrying Japanese?
little, not for 100%, 100%.
In college is the first time I learned about Korean comfort women, and that struck my heart in a new type of way, thinking about not just the physical toll of fighting in a war and the physical effect of colonization, but also the mental emotional toll that it takes on a people.
But the past does not disappear easily. For some, the pain remains. There are still survivors. There are still unresolved issues. There are still tensions between the two nations.
Grandparents' family, I think my grandpa's parents and everyone died from the tensions.
Yeah, I think the more time passes, that tension will decrease. Inevitably, humans are very quick to forget things, so we like to move on. But yeah, just the reality of my grandparents lived through colonization and through the war. My parents lived through kind of the switch over from being a colony to being an independent country, building up democracy, that kind of thing. And then now my generation is one step removed from that. I can only imagine our kids and my grandkids will be so much more removed that it will not affect them the same way.
For me, it's always, I don't think it's only specifically between Japanese and Korean, but in general, it's always nice to see each other as one, human being, and just knowing each other at the personal level. When you actually really do that and invest your time and yourself, knowing other person, building that relationship one at a time.
And while the world continues to change, not every perspective changes with it. Tradition, memory, identity, they continue to shape how people see one another.
My great grandma was the one who came over from Japan, but everything else, it's been slowly accepting of people. You don't really see animosity between my family and other people. So.
If you have people around you and then they imply specific biases because of your Korean ethnicity or someone else's Japanese ethnicity, there might be implied biases that they kind of say, right? Not from my perspective, but it was more from outside people that have nothing to do with either culture, telling, maybe as a joke or something, there's tensions between the two, whatever.
If people are so obsessed with history, I don't think that the Japanese and Korean couple would get together to begin with, if they're so obsessed with it, right? And I think in that sense, I think people who still hold resentment, I think that is a very, very heavy burden to bear. And I think that it is not going to help you get through life. I think people who have that victim mindset, who want to hold through resentment, I think that they really need to unpack that burden and just really try to find peace with it. Because I feel like when you hold on to things, you can't grow as a person. You can't find joy in life just because you're constantly bogged down by this heavy burden.
And yet, something new is beginning to take shape. A future where people are not defined only by where they come from, but by the choices they make, the relationships they build, and the understanding they are willing to pursue.
God's love can help us look past these superficial things, like are you Korean or Japanese or Asian? It don't matter. We're humans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, I completely agree. Especially because as Christians, it says that in Christ, we are all a family. And heaven is going to be filled with people of different ethnicity.
History may shape how we begin, but it doesn't have to define where we go. The future of Korea and Japan will not be written by the past alone, but by the people who choose to move forward.